Hitler had Britain firmly in his sights. France had been quickly crushed by Germany's tanks. If they arrived on British shores, Churchill would need a new weapon to defeat them.
What Britain needs is a low-tech, inexpensive weapon that anyone can use, from the Home Guard to the nascent army, that can be used against tanks quickly and effectively.
McCrae and Jeffries toyed with the notion of sticking a bomb to a tank's armor.
Throw the explosive at the tank. Somehow we will make it stick to the plate for long enough for it to explode and hopefully do some damage.
An early version had used bicycle inner tubes full of explosive and covered in glue. They were completely uncontrollable and a total failure. McCrae went back to the drawing board. He tried various bizarre shapes with flat surfaces to provide contact, but they were impossible to throw correctly. The ideal shape seemed to be a ball, but if it was covered in glue, it would stick to the thrower. So McCrae added a handle. But he then needed the ball to somehow release the explosive upon impact. In a stroke of genius, McCrae came up with the idea of a glass ball. For safety's sake, he used wet porridge instead of explosive. It shattered perfectly, but the porridge went everywhere, limiting the explosive effect. As ever, he came up with a simple but ingenious solution. By pulling a glue-covered sock over the top of the glass ball, it would still shatter, but would also stick to a surface and retain the explosive.
What we've got here is an instructional sticky bomb. Because it's so sticky, you need some sort of cover for it. So you've got this metal outer housing, which then comes away and releases the sticky bomb itself. Right in the centre of here, you would have had about 1.5 pounds of nitroglycerine explosives. Now, there's one crucial thing that you have to remember if you're going to do this for real, and that is that the handle is pointing back the way you probably threw it. So you need to be very careful, because when that device goes off, as well as punching that way, it's obviously sending force going this way, and the handle can come shooting out at about 1/3 the speed of the actual explosion, and obviously you don't want to be on the receiving end of that.
In just a few weeks, the device had gone from drawing board to firing range. The Toffee apple-like weapon was tested in absolute secrecy during 1940, with the Prime Minister looking on. The new grenade was a resounding success, and Churchill was delighted. The design fulfilled his requirement for a simple, cheap, and portable weapon that could combat invading German tanks. But the establishment didn't approve.
Well, you can imagine that, this was extraordinary. I mean, throwing a grenade was one thing, which grenades have been in existence for a long time. But to put a lump of explosive inside a glass container, which is a thin glass, was thin enough to smash when it hit the target, was not according to regulation at all.
It was a health and safety nightmare. Throughout the year, permission was repeatedly denied for manufacturing. When Churchill became aware of the delays, he personally intervened. His one-line note read, "Sticky bomb, make 1 million, WSC." The Toyshop went on to produce 2.5 million, with the weapon used in action on battlefields from North Africa to Papua New Guinea. But its freewheeling approach put the traditional government weapons departments to shame.
They could turn something out in a few days and say, does this work or does it not work? And the next day they would refine it and change it and make it work. A small unit is much quicker on its feet than the large civilian establishments that existed. And this, too, was a bone of contention.
The toy shop's greatest enemy was the Ministry of Supply. It coordinated the supply of all equipment to the armed forces, from weapons to vehicles to food.
Well, the Ministry of Supply was formed in 1939 with the burgeoning prospects of war, and its purpose was to supply the whole military, a massive operation.
McRae and Jefferies were seen as loose cannons who had a disregard for the chain of command. In July 1940, a senior officer named Brigadier Wyndham was sent to find out exactly what was going on in the toy shop.
The department was fighting being overcome by the Ministry of Supply, and there was a constant threat of acquisition. Brigadier Wyndham was going to inspect them with a view to taking them over.
McRae decided to make their small band of inventors look like a larger operation, because it would make them seem more official in Wyndham's eyes.
What the hell is going on here? Who's in charge?
While McRae led the brigadier from room to room, the workers took a different route to the next location, quickly switching overalls. When the brigadier entered, they pretended to be different technicians doing a completely different job. This amazing con trick actually worked. The brigadier reluctantly accepted that the toy shop was too big to close down. Having avoided obliteration by the skin of its teeth, the only way was up for the unit.